Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Sparkle English. My name is Jennifer and today I'm going to teach you about basic word order in sentences. So in this lesson we're going to cover the basic structure of English sentences. Word order is very important in the English language. If you change the order of the words, you may completely change the meaning of the sentence. Let's look at these two examples. The dog chased the rabbit versus the rabbit chased the dog. The same words are used in these sentences, but the meaning has completely changed because of the word order. In English, we have the subject of the sentence before the verb, followed by the object of the sentence. So first let's talk about neutral word order in English, which is the subject plus the predicate. Most sentences in English follow this structure. So we start with the subject of the sentence, who or what the sentence is about, followed by the verb, the action or the state, and then optionally we have an object. So the subject performs the action. So for example, Bethany is running. Here we have the subject, Bethany, and the predicate is running. My parents are having a party. Again, we have the subject, my parents, and the predicate are having a party. The computer needs to be repaired. Again, we have the subject followed by a predicate. So now let's look at the most common sentence patterns based on this structure. So we have the first one, which is subject plus verb. For example, the dog sleeps. The baby cried. I was dreaming. Here we have the subject I plus the helping verb or auxiliary verb was plus dreaming, which is the main verb because this is in the past continuous tense. We are swimming. Another common sentence pattern is subject plus verb plus object. This is probably the most common sentence pattern. Jessie is eating pizza. My niece loves books. So the subject performs the action and the object receives the action. Let's look at another two common sentence pattern. Subject plus verb plus complement. Ben is my best friend. Dinner smells delicious. In this pattern, we have the subject followed by a linking verb plus the complement. And complements describe the subject and usually come after a linking verb, like is, smells, feels, seems, etc. We also have subject plus verb plus adverb or adverbial. For example, her uncle lives here. The speaker spoke eloquently. My friends are sitting there. So the adverbial tells us where, when, or how the action happens. So where does the uncle live? He lives here. How did the speaker speak? She spoke eloquently. So these are four of the most common sentence patterns. So now I want to talk about word order in simple sentences and how that changes based on whether the sentence is affirmative, negative, or interrogative. So far, we have only looked at affirmative sentences. So we're going to talk about word order in statements, questions, and commands. For example, he is clever. Here we have an affirmative sentence, but what happens if we make this negative? Well, we add not after the verb. He isn't clever, or he is not clever. Here's another example. Beth plays football. Now let's look at a negative sentence. Beth doesn't play football. So here we have does plus not before the verb. Beth doesn't or Beth does not play football. If the subject was plural, like children, the children don't play football. Now let's look at word order with questions using these same examples. Is he clever? So notice that he and is have been flipped. We don't say he is clever. We say, is he clever? So in English, word order in questions depends on whether the main verb is the verb to be or another verb. With the verb to be, we flip the subject and the verb. So usually questions are formatted like this. However, sometimes we have questions that are negative. For example, isn't he clever? And the difference between is he clever and isn't he clever is with the first one, I am genuinely asking a question. I'm not sure. Is he clever? I don't know. However, in the second example, isn't he clever? This is used for a specific purpose. Perhaps this man did something very unintelligent, and I'm surprised he did that because I thought he was clever. Isn't he clever? I thought he was. You might also ask this if you're looking for confirmation. Isn't he Italian? I think he's Italian, and I want you to confirm that yes, he is, or no, he isn't. Now let's look at word order with normal verbs. Does Beth play football? Here you can see that we add an auxiliary before the subject, and then we have the main verb. Do the children play football? And if this was a negative question, doesn't Beth play football? Again, usually we don't use negative questions unless we're looking for confirmation. Finally, let's look at word order with commands. Open your books. You can see here that it begins with a verb and we don't have a subject. And that's because the subject is implied. If I am a teacher and I'm looking at you, my student, I'm telling you, open your books. I don't have to say, you open your books. I could if I wanted extra emphasis, but usually we just start with the main verb in a command or an imperative sentence. If this was a negative command, don't open your books. Don't talk during class. Okay, so now let's talk about word order for emphasis. So sometimes in English, we change word order for emphasis, style, or dramatic effect. So we're going to look at the neutral word order versus word order for emphasis. His name was James Bond. This is a standard sentence. We have the subject, his name, and the predicate. However, sometimes you want to emphasize something, and you may change the word order. For example, James Bond was his name. When we begin with the name, it gives some dramatic effect. James Bond was his name. So while you'll typically use standard or neutral word order, sometimes, say you're writing a story, or you're texting someone, or you just want to add some flair or some drama to your writing, you can play with words. Even though we have a lot of rules in English, it's also fun to be creative with words, and this is something you can do. Here's another example. I have never seen such a handsome man. This is your standard word order, but if we wanted to add some real emphasis on just how handsome this man was, you could change the word order. Never have I seen such a handsome man. And here's one final example. My boss stormed into the room. If you wanted to add real emphasis, you might say, into the room stormed my boss. This creates some suspense. Into the room stormed, and then you're finally ending it with the person, my boss. Okay, so it adds some suspense. So usually you're just going to do the standard neutral word order following the sentence patterns I showed you previously. But if you want to have some fun, or if you're a creative writer, feel free to occasionally change the word order to add emphasis. So now we're going to do a 6-question quiz. Some of these sentences have incorrect word order, and it's your job to fix them. So for all of these, I do not want you to change the punctuation, and all of these sentences must follow standard word order, we're not going to use word order for emphasis in these examples. So let's begin. Number 1, the baby is sleeping peacefully. Number 2, my best friend Chocolate enjoys. Number 3, very entertaining was the movie. Number 4, doesn't Joey live with Ross? Number 5, don't talk during the exam. And finally, number 6, the apple pie delicious tastes. Okay, let's correct these together. Number 1 is correct as it is. We have the subject, the baby, the verb is sleeping, and then the adverb peacefully. Number 2 is incorrect. It should be my best friend enjoys chocolate, not chocolate enjoys. That's because we have the subject, then the verb, and then the object at the end. Number 3 is also incorrect. It should be the movie was very entertaining. The movie is the subject, and very entertaining is the complement. Number 4 is incorrect. This should be a negative statement, so it should be Joey doesn't live with Ross. So if you added a question mark at the end, doesn't Joey live with Ross? Technically that's correct. However, I told you that we weren't changing punctuation in this quiz. So I wanted this to be a negative sentence. Joey doesn't live with Ross. Number 5 is correct as it is. This is a command. It's an imperative sentence. Don't talk during the exam. And finally, number 6 is incorrect. It should be the apple pie tastes delicious. Okay, so let me know in the comments section how many you got correct out of 6. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments section. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more lessons like this one. I'll see you all next time.